It's common knowledge that John Wayne ranks high among the century's most recognizable actors. Among the most iconic male stars of American film noir, he was even named by the American Film Institute in 1999. He deserved this moniker for his outstanding performances in classic Hollywood films, especially westerns and war pictures. John Wayne had a glittering Hollywood career, but few know that his life was shattered in an instant by his poisonous addiction, which is the real reason he was so famous and successful. However, in order to grasp the entirety of his trip, let us return to the year 1907, the very beginning. Marion Robert Morrison, the son of Clyde Leonard Morrison and Mary Molly Alberta Brown, was born on May 26, 1907 in Winterset, Iowa. John Wayne was later adopted. Wayne was likely kept busy before he could walk because his family traveled around him much. A couple of years later, they relocated to Glendale, California from Palmdale. His dad became a pharmacist after arriving in Glendale in 1916. Wayne was an all-around student at Glendale Union High School. He was a football player, debate team member, and Latin Society president. The sports column in the school newspaper was even written by him. For want of a better word, he was a perfectionist. Since he never left home without his Airedale Terrier, Duke, a local firefighter at the station along his way to Glendale High School began to refer to him as Little Duke. Around this time, Wayne ended up preferring the name Duke, and he couldn't shake it. While still a teenager, Wayne worked as an ice cream shop employee for a man who also did horseshoeing for Hollywood studios. He went to Glendale's Wilson Middle School. And this, in some way, would lead him to pursue a career in acting. His application to the United States Naval Academy was unsuccessful after he completed middle school due to his academic performance. He opted to attend USC with the intention of becoming a lawyer instead. Also, he joined the USC football team, adding to his impressive stature of 6 feet 4 inches. However, destiny intervened. He sustained a fractured collarbone in an accident while body surfing. His collegiate football scholarship and career were abruptly ended. A godsend and a curse, this turn of events. Unfortunately, this necessitated his withdrawal from college. On the bright side, it steered him in the direction of Hollywood, where he would quickly become a legend. Howard Jones, Wayne's coach, wanted to help him discover a new route after he lost his football scholarship in a body surfing accident. Jones contacted Tom Mix, a silent Western film star who frequently attended USC games, after learning about Wayne's predicament. Wayne was employed as a prop boy and extra by director John Ford and producer Mix because of this connection. Even though it didn't appear glamorous at first, this was a turning point for Wayne. While doing behind-the-scenes work, Wayne began to get a feel for the Hollywood system. After becoming fast friends with John Ford, an influential figure in his career, he went from being a prop boy to landing tiny parts in films. The film Bartles the Magnificent had him in an uncredited role as a guard at one point. Brown of Harvard, The Dropkick, Salute, and Columbia's Maker of Men are just a few of the films in which he and his USC teammates appeared. Though seemingly insignificant at the time, these parts were pivotal in establishing his credibility and opening doors for him later on. Wayne had a solitary appearance in Words and Music, credited as Duke Morrison, while employed by Fox Film Corporation. Then Wayne's talent was discovered by director Raoul Walsh, who watched him shifting studio equipment. His breakout part came in The Big Trail, which Walsh cast for him. After considering the name of Revolutionary War General Mad Anthony Wayne, Walsh proposed Anthony Wayne as a potential screen name. However, Fox Studios chief Winfield Sheehan felt it sounded too Italian. Even though Wayne wasn't physically present, Walsh's suggestion of John Wayne stuck. A weekly salary increased to $105 and a new moniker ushered Bruce Wayne's rise to Hollywood greatness. With a mind-boggling budget of over $2 million, equivalent to over $36 million today, The Big Trail was supposed to be the first big-budget outdoor spectacular of the sound era. The stunning landscapes were captured using state-of-the-art cameras and lenses, and the film was shot using two different film formats, the traditional 35mm version and the brand-new 70mm grandeur process. The film's innovative effort was largely wasted at the time, as just a few of cinemas were equipped to show it in widescreen format, even though the few crowds who saw it in grandeur regularly stood and cheered. While the picture bombed at the box office, reviewers today hold it in the highest esteem. The Grand Trail flopped like a pancake on a hot griddle, and John Wayne ended up in Hollywood's equivalent of a pickle. After being a leading man in the making, he settled for supporting parts in Hollywood blockbusters. He even had a role as a dead body in Columbia's The Deceiver. Wayne carried on directing a slew of low-budget Poverty Row westerns for studios like Mascot Pictures Corporation and Monogram Pictures. Even though these jobs were significantly lower quality than his previous one, they served to keep him relevant. Wayne maintained a confident demeanor and a snug fit for his cowboy hat throughout. These early failures were merely stepping stones on his path from Hollywood flop to stardom. From 1930 to 1939, Wayne appeared in 80 of these horse operas, by his own estimation, during his early years in Hollywood. Even though he required some dubbing assistance with the songs, he gave it his best go as one of the first singing cowboys in Riders of Destiny. A few of the Three Musketeers westerns also had Wayne strutting his stuff, a playful homage to the Dumas classic. While filming, Wayne was gaining more than just screen time. He was also learning the ropes from industry heavyweights while riding horses. He became famous for his western methods and riding abilities, which he learned from stuntmen like Yakima Nut. When they worked together, they changed the face of action cinema stunts and battle scenes forever. When it came to the fight scenes in these early Poverty Row westerns, Wayne made a significant contribution. Wayne ensured that the good characters fought just as realistically and persuasively as the evil ones, in contrast to the clean-cut heroics of the time. He distinguished himself as a leading man who could handle himself in a brawl, and gave credibility to his characters with this gritty, no-holds-barred manner. John Wayne's dogged persistence eventually paid off handsomely. Stagecoach, John Ford's 1939 picture, was his second major break. Given Wayne's reputation as an actor who specialized in low-budget westerns from the 1930s and his history as a B-movie star, this was a major deal. Despite plans for a budget production, Ford had a hard time getting funding. Because of their doubts about Wayne's acting chops, major studios weren't exactly jumping on the bandwagon to support the film. Ford was just as tenacious as Wayne was in the face of these challenges. Following some negotiations, he was able to secure financing from independent producer Walter Wanger, who stipulated that the film's leading lady, Claire Trevor, who was a considerably greater figure at the time, be given the highest billing. The launch of Stagecoach would not have been possible without this concession. Stagecoach was an enormous financial and critical success upon its release. Wayne became famous all around the world after playing the role of the Ringo Kid. According to cast member Louise Platt, Ford once boldly said that Wayne, playing the role of the classic everyman, will become the biggest star of all time. Hollywood, along with the rest of the nation, rallied to assist the war effort when World War II swung into motion later that year. But because of his age and family position, Wayne was classed as 3A, a family deferment, and he was spared from service. Wayne wanted to join the Army and wrote to John Ford often about it, even asking if he might join Ford's squad. Despite their good intentions, Wayne encountered several real-world challenges. Republic Studios was eager to hold on to him since he didn't make any efforts to alter his draft status and since he was the only A-list actor under contract with them. Republic President Herbert J. Yates went so far as to threaten legal action against Wayne in the event that he attempted to terminate their agreement. In order to secure additional deferments for him, the studio meddled with the Selective Service. Wayne remained in Hollywood throughout the war, continuing to produce films that lifted people's morale. Among these was Shepherd of the Hills, his 1941 debut feature film in color. He gave the film an extra personal touch by starring alongside his longtime buddy Harry Carey. In Cecil B. DeMille's Technicolor epic the next year, Wayne tried something new. He played a character with dubious morality, which was a departure for him. Wayne was more than just a Hollywood actor. He was a frequent guest on radio shows including Luella Parsons's and Hedda Hopper's. Screen Directors Playhouse and Lux Radio Theater were regular venues for his impersonations of film roles. His own radio adventure series 3 Sheets to the Wind, which was produced by Tay Garnett, a film director, had him as its star for 6 months in 1942. Wayne portrayed the character of Dan O'Brien, an alcoholic detective on this international spy detective series. As we'll discuss further below, viewers had no idea that Wayne was actually battling alcoholism in real life. John Wayne's career didn't merely take off, it accelerated to supersonic speed as the years passed. His breakout performance was in William Wellman's The High and the Mighty, an adaptation of Ernest K. Gann's novel. Everyone wanted Wayne as their wingman after seeing him in the role of a brave co-pilot, for which he garnered enormous praise. Flying Tigers, Flying Leathernecks, Jet Pilot, Island in the Sky, The Wings of Eagles, and Wayne were among Wayne's other film appearances in which he flew an airplane. You could say that he was the man Hollywood turned to whenever a cockpit was involved. He became famous for his renowned collaborations with John Ford, the director. Over the course of 20 years, Wayne made appearances in approximately 20 of Ford's films. The Quiet Man, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, and The Wings of Eagles were among these classics. Some say that Wayne gave his best and most nuanced portrayal in Ford's The Searchers, the film in which he famously introduced the word pilgrim to an audience member. Fans were captivated by Wayne's charisma and ability to switch things up, concluding that he would become one of Hollywood's most iconic stars regardless of whether he rode or piloted. John Wayne was looking for more by the 1960s than merely acting. From behind the camera, he was producing and directing his own films. To begin with, he portrayed Davy Crockett in the 1960 film The Alamo, which he also produced. Richard Widmark, who co-starred with him as Jim Bowie. Wayne received an Oscar nomination for Best Picture as a result of his outstanding work on the picture. Wayne, too, was occupied with his time in front of the lens. In the same year, he co-starred with Stuart Granger and Ernie Kovacs as the lead in North to Alaska, a film by Henry Hathaway. Comancheros, directed by Michael Curtis and starring Stuart Whitman, was released in 1961. John Wayne continued to appear in successful films right up until the late 1970s, demonstrating his status as the beloved, well-known Hollywood heavyweight. Even a blind man could see that he had spent the better part of half a century establishing an unshakable reputation in show business. As an example, Wayne had a starring role in Mark Rydell's 1972 picture The Cowboys. Even though the New York Times' Vincent Canby wasn't a huge fan of the film, he couldn't deny Wayne's magnetism and said that he had become a near-ideal father figure. Wayne became an iconic and adored character in American cinema for generations due to his brilliance and ability to connect with people, which was evident in his long presence on the big screen. John Wayne's real-life struggles with addiction were much more serious than his glamorous Hollywood career. He would meet his tragic end as a result of his addictions. Movie actors were regarded like royalty during the golden age of Hollywood. Even when they made a mistake, they were unbeatable. While Wayne gave the impression of being an expert on set, there was more nuance to his character than meets the eye. Just being in the film could guarantee box office success, so he got his hands on anything he wanted, no matter how ridiculous. Wayne, in this instance, preferred to film his scenes before the midday break. This was due to the fact that the renowned actor would be more venomous than a rattlesnake after a few drinks around midday. Everyone on his crew was aware that he was a vicious drinker. Because they didn't bother to drink water, folks back then drank alcohol as if it were water. Drinking water between shots is common knowledge now. It aids digestion, keeps you hydrated, and lessens the impact of alcohol. This was definitely not the norm in those days, and Wayne was probably the one who felt the effects. Envision yourself trying to deliver lines while your head is being rolled around by a severe hangover. Keeping up with his co-stars on set likely became more difficult due to his drinking habits, which likely affected his digestion and made early mornings unpleasant. John Wayne's chain-smoking antics on set were legendary. He would vanish like smoke in between takes, reappearing with a fresh pack of cigarettes at a gallop quicker than his horse could trot. His co-stars made fun of the fact that they could always track him down by looking for the cigarette butts he dropped. He would sneak a drag even while scenes were in progress, puffing away as if he were attempting to communicate with someone via smoke signals. In addition to his drinking problem, John Wayne also smoked heavily. The guy was a cigarette fiend, Whether he was on or off screen, he was almost never seen without one. In his films, smoking served as an accessory that accentuated his rugged masculinity. Wayne allegedly smoked 6 packs a day when he was at his best. In a lifetime, that amounts to around 1 million cigarettes or 120 cigarettes every day. Like many people of his generation, Wayne started smoking when he was quite young. In those days, smoking was viewed as the height of chic and elegance in Hollywood. Over the years, Wayne tried to quit multiple times. Quitting smoking proved to be just as difficult as quitting any other drug addiction, despite his attempts at everything from hypnosis to nicotine patches. He was unable to permanently overcome his addiction regardless of his efforts. John Wayne's cowboy lifestyle began to show its age as he grew older. When he reached 70 years old, his body was more problematic than an obstinate bronco. Rather than mounting up, he was occupied with negotiating oxygen tanks in order to regain his breath in between scenes. They had to bring in a stunt double to cover for him since his coughing episodes were so bad. In 1964, during a routine checkup, physicians discovered more than just dust when they peeked inside Wayne's chest. This was the beginning of his health difficulties. They found a malignant tumor so severe that they had to remove his whole lung and 2 ribs during the operation. Wayne fearlessly informed the public of his recovery later that year, despite this setback, and he responded positively to treatment. The cumulative effect of Wayne's years of heavy smoking, frequent drinking, and gluttonous eating had worn him down physically. A pig's valve was surgically implanted into his heart after doctors determined he required a replacement valve. Unfortunately, he didn't exactly feel like a spring bird again after using the pig's valve. Wayne had lost a significant amount of weight by this point, to the point where he barely resembled his previous self. He had to wear a wetsuit underneath his nice clothes for the Academy Awards, his last public appearance, so he would look a little more put together. His return to the hospital following the glamorous awards event was swift as he battled more lung complications brought on by the virus. Consequently, in May 1979, he had to go through yet another operation to remove an obstruction from his intestines. Even though he courageously walked the hospital corridors thereafter in an effort to recover, his health plummeted once more in the weeks that followed. Even though John Wayne was fighting illness, he had no intention of passing out peacefully. As if preparing for a last showdown with the sickness, he enrolled in a cancer vaccine study. Unfortunately, by this point, the disease had progressed to other organs, including his stomach, lungs, heart, and liver. For the Duke, that was the final straw. John Wayne, at the age of 72, drew his last bow on June 11, 1979, at the UCLA Medical Center in Los Angeles. His final resting place was at Newport Beach's Corona del Mar's Pacific View Memorial Park Cemetery. On the other hand, Wayne had converted to Roman Catholicism before he hit the road. Theo Fortei Formal, which he playfully translated as ugly, strong, and dignified, is the inscription he proudly picked for his tombstone. Ultimately, it was a fitting send-off for a man whose real-life writing was just as fearless as his on-screen ones.